We are streaming. And I'm just going to hit the record and then we'll let in everybody else. Okay, we are recording. Council members, please let me know if any new council members are joining, so we can ensure that all council members get to be co-hosts. Okay. All right, thank you everybody for joining us here for our May calendar, CECD2 May calendar meeting and our CECD2 working business meeting, which will follow after the conclusion of our calendar meeting. I know it's been a glorious few days of weather here in New York City. So those of you who are joining us, and thank you for coming. And I know that another beautiful night out there. But that said, our recording secretary, Robin Kelleher, if you can take a roll call, and then after that we'll have the announcements by our Spanish and Mandarin interpreters.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Ben. All right, Robin Broshi. Here. Kaushik Das. I think he said he's running a few minutes late, so we'll come back to him. Daniela.
Here.
Lupe Hernandez. Lupe, are you present?
I think she's in the waiting room.
In the waiting room. Okay, 1 second.
Okay, we'll come back to her. Robin Kelleher, yes, I'm here. Chen Kwok.
Here.
Benjamin Morden.
Here.
Sonal Patel.
Here.
Len Silverman.
Here.
Lim Feng.
Here.
Liwa, Lily.
Don't see her.
Maybe we can reach out to her since we haven't seen her in a while.
Yeah.
Tim, would you text her or Janie? Spencer Silverman.
I will contact
Here.
Thank you. All right, let me circle back. Kaushik, are you here?
I am.
And Lupe, are you here?
I am.
Okay, I don't see you. Can you put your camera on? Thank you. Okay, so we can proceed.
Okay, great.
Not co-host, so she cannot unmute herself.
I just made her co-host. Then you must have 2 accounts. Because I just made you co-host.
Is Spencer co-host?
Yeah, I just made him a co-host too. All right. Yeah, it says co-host on my screen under participants, Lupe.
I see it too.
Yeah, your co-host under participants.
It's working now.
Okay, thank
It
you.
wasn't working before.
I don't control Zoom. I'm sorry. I tried. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. And our Mandarin interpreters, if you could announce yourselves, I'd appreciate that.
各位家长、各位社区人士，大家好。我是今天晚上的华语翻译员，还有我的同事思芬也是今天晚上的华语翻译员。如果你想要收听华语翻译，请拨打电话号码347-966-4114，并输入密码 751-617-781，然后按井字。如果你想要收听华语翻译，同时留在 Zoom 这个会议室上，以便在电脑上收看会议，请把你的电脑和电话都调到静音，然后在你的电话上拨入会议专线。重复一遍华语翻译的会议专线电话号码347-966-4114，并输入密码751-617-781，然后按井字。Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if our other Mandarin interpreter, if you can introduce yourself too, please.
Yeah, this is Daughter Mandarin interpreter. My name is Shane. My partner will be the one starting tonight. That's it. Should I make the announcement one more time?
Do you need to give a phone line or?
Well, yeah, he's on the phone line, so he will be the star. I will switch him at 7. So
Okay,
Um,
great.
talk soon.
Thank you. All right, and our Spanish interpreters, if you can announce yourselves, please.
I'm going to start giving the phone number, okay? Buenas noches para todos aquellos que quieran escuchar esta presentación en español. Por favor, marquen el siguiente número: 347-966-4114. Repito el número: 347-966-4114, e ingresen la clave del PIN, que es la siguiente: 990-947-659, símbolo numeral. Repito la clave: 990-947-659, símbolo numeral. Y por favor recuerden apagar sus micrófonos para que no haya interferencia. Muchas gracias. All done. Presentation in Spanish is done.
Great, thank you. Our second Spanish interpreter, can please announce.
Good evening. Saludos, buenas noches. Yo soy Esmil, también soy la intérprete en español. Voy a estar aquí por la noche con Jacobo y vamos a estar en la línea de español. Interpretation done.
Thank you very much. We have a light agenda today, so there are only 3 speakers signed up for our speaking session. So if there's anyone that would like to sign up to speak, please do so. Now would be the time. Given our light agenda, and there's no resolutions, I would like to, and there's no program. So let's move to the first public speaking session, if that's okay.
So Ben, I don't have the list.
Yeah, I'm going to put the
You
names
have the
down
list,
on the
okay.
list right now
Okay.
in the chat.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. All right, Cam would be the first one, but I don't see her. And I don't see our second one. Okay, and Richard Connolly's not here as well. Wow. Okay. I'll check again if anyone wants to sign up. I can put the link on our website here. Just one moment. So if you want to sign up, that's the link. Let me just write. You can sign up for the second speaker session. All right, this is first. I'm used to 4-hour meetings. Okay. All right, so then we go to the president's report. Let me just check one last time. Yep, there's no one there. Okay.
I'm sorry, Chairman. You just send the links directly to me, and also would you mind meeting me through the phone line, please? Thank you.
What was that? 1 second about the phone.
The Mandarin phone line was not admitted yet.
Yeah. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
thank you.
I appreciate that. All right. So for the president's report, it's basically today we had big news. We had the chancellor and the mayor in Brooklyn announced the curriculum changes for next year, our reading curriculum. So and a structured literacy program, and which we spoke about last month. So we're ahead of the curve in District 2, and as confirmed by the chancellor, this is a curriculum rollout will be in 2 phases. The second phase will include District 2. So the first phase will be decided. We'll have the superintendent. Maybe he can say more about it later, but it will be decided with another council. So I know I've been receiving a number of emails, chains of emails. I think have been going around. People advocating for change or for their current curriculum. I think there will be opportunities with the next council to discuss this. I make a suggestion to the future council. Hopefully you will have a curriculum forum for discussing, phonics, phonemics, structured literacy, science of reading, background knowledge, and all the issues that go into to the curricula choice, because there will be 3 different reading curriculum options. So, but this was big news, and I think maybe New York City is now leading the nations, or for large cities, with this change of from balanced literacy to more structured literacy program. But we've been doing a lot here from what we've heard from the superintendent along those lines already. So, I was glad to hear these changes, and note that our council has had previous resolutions in the past in favor of what transpired today. So it was great to see advocacy realizing itself, and that we're going to more science or evidence-based curriculum choices. And I'm looking forward to the rollout for next year. All right, I don't have much else to say about that besides there's a CEC election going on, and I wish all the candidates. We have candidates in our council meeting here today. Wish you all good luck, and fortunately, this is not the forum for you to discuss your views and candidacy, but again, good luck. And if you haven't voted yet, parents, please vote. It's you have till I think 11:59 p.m. tonight. So I don't know if it's considered a civic duty or not, but it's still an important duty. So so please do so. And on the DOE website, you can find all the candidate statements, and you can find their videos about them as well. All right. And with that said, I will. Oh, there's one other thing before I pass it over to the superintendent, and hopefully later, our recording secretary, who's also the chair of the Students in Temporary Housing and Students in Economic Need Committee, will discuss what turned out to be a nice community event to help out students. But we'll hear more from And to the superintendent report. Superintendent Keller McGuire, if you can please share your wisdom with us. Thank you.
I'll do my very best. Thanks so much for having me tonight. If you could, President Morton, just please make Yanette Bueno and Janine Michelle co-hosts so they can unmute. They're members of our district team and are going to be sharing a little bit tonight. So thank you very much for that.
Janine and Annette, you said? Or?
Yanette with a Y.
Yanette. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thanks very much. And I think we've got Reggie Higgins here already, who is a co-host. So thanks again so much for everybody for having me. This month, just like every month that we are here in District 2, there's always so much going on. And this month we've celebrated many events with our newest New Yorkers. PS 111 organized a family art activity a couple of Saturdays ago, and PS 130 has done a beautiful event in which they partnered with Dance Unite to bring together the students from their school. They also are serving many students who are living in temporary housing, students from families who are seeking asylum. We also know that May is Asian American Pacific Islander Month, and it's a good time to remind the community that two of our schools, PS 33 and PS 130, are piloting the Hidden Voices curriculum that will help supplement the core curriculum with resources that center voices from various communities that have historically not had their stories shared in American history. These supplemental resources will include readings and books, some of which we have linked here, but also online recordings of interviews, field trips in the community, and more. And now we're going to hear from our Deputy Superintendent, Reggie Higgins, who will share a little bit about summarizing.
Thank you, Superintendent McGuire. Before I begin, I want to first say thank you to Jennifer Greenblatt and Tina Yacker on our team for supporting our parent coordinators and other staff that are parent-facing with the enrollment process. Big shout out to our school leaders for also encouraging families to enroll in Summarizing. At this time, the application is closed. And so the next step in the process is that families will begin to receive their placement information during the week of May 12th. One of the questions that is coming up a lot is, will there be an opportunity to reopen the application portal? At this time, they have not given any indication that they are reopening the application portal. However, they are sharing that if seats become available, that by mid-May, they will be posted on the DOE website. So please, if you know of families that are still interested and did not have an opportunity to submit an application, please tell them to continue to check the website by mid-May. At our last CEC meeting, one of the questions that was raised was this idea, will there be a program that is designed specifically for multilingual language learners and English language learners during the Summarizing? And we stated that yes, we confirmed that there will be a program that is targeted specifically for those students. It will be hosted at PS 111. The goal is, of course, to provide instruction in the targeted language and to continue to develop literacy and language goals with grade level content. And just as a final reminder that the first day of Summarizing is Wednesday, July 5th. I can't believe I'm saying that it's almost July and Summarizing is on the way. That's all I have. Thank you, Superintendent McGuire.
Thanks so much, Reggie. As we've heard tonight, there was a huge announcement about New York City Reads. That's the name of the initiative that has been launched by Chancellor Banks and Mayor Adams. New York City Reads is a citywide campaign launched by Chancellor Banks and Mayor Adams to declare that literacy and reading instruction are a top priority of our public school system. This initiative aims to ensure that every student in our city, regardless of background or circumstances, has the tools and support to develop strong reading skills from birth through graduation. In our district, we expect that the adoption of a common curriculum will strengthen practices that will support our most advanced learners and most advanced readers, as well as fill in gaps in reading that previously had gone unmet for some of our struggling readers. We are very excited to engage in this work. And regardless of how people have come down on this issue, as Ben mentioned, he probably has received information from families who are supportive of this change and who have questions about this change. This initiative has raised a lot of questions and engaged our leaders in many, many discussions. Those discussions are strengthening the quality of education that I think we're providing for all of the kids in our district. So part of what we're going to be talking today is a little bit in relationship to our district goals, which are aligned with the chancellor's priorities. So the annual process of developing district goals, it starts in collaboration with the district leadership team, or DLT. And earlier this year, we worked on some goals that were aligned to Chancellor Banks's vision for schools. Tonight, we're going to welcome two of our district team members, Yanette Bueno and Janine Michelle, who will be speaking with us about some of the ways in which we are supporting our students by providing stronger curricula, closely monitoring and assessing the progress of students, and building and developing professional learning alongside our school leaders and teachers. Janine will share updates regarding foundational literacy, which is work that begins in our pre-K and advances usually through 3rd grade in our schools. Yanette will share a deeper dive into middle school mathematics by introducing some of the key components to illustrative mathematics. It's illustrative, just in case people think it's illustrative. I have been saying it wrong for a while, but we had a meeting with some of the founders and developers of the curriculum. Illustrative it is. So she's going to be sharing a little bit about illustrative mathematics, which we will be using across all of our middle schools next year. And we'll continue to share progress of this work this year and next during meetings with the community. And we'll continue to support our principals so that they can have a lot of information that they might need and answer questions with PTAs and school leadership teams. So with that, I will turn it over to Janine.
Thank you, Superintendent McGuire. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me this evening. So just a little bit about the academic intervention coordinator role. It is a new role in the district, and it's across districts. Every district has 2 AIS coordinators who are supported by the Central Literacy Collaborative team. While our role in reading the description on the slide indicates a focus on academic interventions, which is support in addition to the core Tier 1 instruction that all students receive, our work as AIS coordinators this year has been focused on strengthening core foundational literacy instruction. And this is primarily because we need to ensure that our core meets the needs of students, because it's very difficult, extremely difficult to intervene your way out of a poor or weak core. That being said, when thinking of percentages, that 80% of students meeting benchmark goals is a good place to start, because our systems can support the approximately 20% of students that may need strategic or intensive supports. A little bit about the roles and the responsibilities as an AIS coordinator. Basically, we build capacity by supporting building level and district level staff in the use and understanding of universal screening data, diagnostic and progress monitoring assessments. We support with data collection, data use and development, interventions and strategies, and we help schools and the district team to analyze the data and set the system level goals, and we leverage professional learning resources and support. Additionally, we create intervention groups for those students that might need more support than the core, and we support schools with progress monitoring of those interventions, and we often review curricular needs based on various data reports. And finally, we serve as resources in identifying appropriate instructional strategies and interventions to improve student achievement for all. Next slide, please. Okay, so one of the tools that we support our schools in using is the Acadience Universal Reading Screener. We've looked at this before in prior meetings last year. I know that we discussed when it was new across the district. This screener is administered again to all eligible K-2 students in the Department of Education 3 times per year. The data provides a high-level bird's eye view of the effectiveness of foundational literacy acquisition. So the measures administered are predictive of future reading success. So this is different than the other assessments teachers may have administered because it's a screener and not a summative assessment, like, for example, the state test. So what it is a temperature check of the effectiveness of our system, much like a thermometer is a check of or an indicator of our physical health. It doesn't tell you everything you know about physical health, but it's an excellent indicator. It's a really good place for us to start. So here on the screen, you see these donut shapes. They are the reading composite scores, and they are a combination of multiple reading scores, which provides the best overall estimate of students' reading proficiency. Can I have a click of the slide for the next image? Thank you. Students scoring at or above the benchmark, so the blue or in the green that you see on the screen, they have the odds are in their favor, approximately 80 to 90% of overall, of achieving important later reading outcomes if, and that's an if they receive high quality tier 1 instruction. Otherwise, they can fall below because throughout the year, the measures change. So again, this screening tool used by our schools and our district team helps to evaluate the effectiveness of the instructional support system. It provides a snapshot at a point in time of all of our students across the district. So if you look at this slide, this is our first grade data across the district from the beginning and the middle of the year. We are able to look at our progress for all students at each benchmark period. So we used the beginning of the year data as our baseline and set a system-wide goal for what we hope to achieve at the end of the year, which is 80% proficiency in foundational literacy skills. Again, that percentage or goal can be sustained by our system. So the 20% that would be in the red or the yellow, those are the students who may need that strategic or intensive support. We can provide that support to them because we have enough human resources to do it. The students at or above will be successful with continued core tier 1 instruction. May I have the next image, please? So the beginning of the year data shows that 59% of our first grade students were at or above the benchmark for achieving future reading goals. Next image, please. So we can celebrate our student progress. We're moving in a positive upward trajectory. We see now in the middle of the year, 73% of our students are now meeting benchmark for this time of year. That's a 14% increase. Next image, please. At the mid-year, we had approximately 600 of our first grade students not yet reaching this goal at the middle of the year. And this is why, as a district, we continue to focus on foundational literacy. The hope is for even more growth at the end of the year. We still have another window, it's open right now, to collect this data. And as a result of our efforts to build stakeholders' content knowledge and pedagogy to improve literacy instruction for all students, we hope to see that growth towards that 80%. And we continue to support leaders and teachers to align instruction to student need. Next slide, please. So in order to move the trajectory forward, here are the ways in which we as a district continue to support teachers and leaders in developing strong literacy practices in schools. The first being school visits. In these visits, we had analyze data and we provide support with that. We'll support leaders with walkthroughs. We are building collective assessment literacy. We help teams understand this platform and other platforms that are used for universal screening. And then we also support with how to progress monitor within specifically the Acadience platform. Second, we have coaching. So we are observing instruction. We're supporting with the alignment of interventions based on student needs. We're introducing teachers and interventionists to diagnostic assessments that they might not have had access to prior. We're connecting schools with resources, materials, and professional learning. The third bullet is letters. Our district has over 80 teachers engaging in letters professional training. Letters, again, is the acronym for Literacy Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. It is the professional learning program rooted in the science of reading, language, and literacy that really empowers our teachers. Our teachers and leaders engaging in letters are provided with opportunities to collaborate with their colleagues across the districts through teacher-led intervisitations. The teacher-led intervisitations build a strong learning culture with a shared vision, and we look forward to expanding the work in the district in order to strengthen literacy instruction. And in fact, today, our letters participants met at PS 198 to continue to develop best practices around using decodable text as a tool to support developing readers. And also our principals have also participated in 2 full days of letters for administrators. Finally, the district team is providing opportunities focused on high quality evidence-based curriculum resources and instructional practices for our teachers through this summer professional learning calendar. We're connecting teachers and school leaders with trainings such as Heggerty, Foundations, really great reading, and our colleagues at Central support our district in providing this professional learning. These opportunities are building the capacity of leaders, teachers, and our interventionists to ensure that our students receive foundational skill instruction with consistency and intentionality. To wrap it up, we look forward to and are excited to build and strengthen our professional learning communities, and in supporting our educators, school leaders, and families to ensure that our students are provided with a strong, coherent learning experience that sets up our students for lifelong success. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent McGuire.
Thank you so much, Janine.
You're welcome.
It's so great to work with people who are so smart and have done so much research and practice in their careers. So now I'm going to turn it over to Yanet Bueno, who works on our district as she's really our mathematics point person for mostly our secondary math, but Yanet is also a fountain of knowledge. So Yanet, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And yes, as Superintendent McGuire said, I'm supporting our middle schools with curriculum and instruction and transitioning right now to the illustrative math, or IM for short. And that way we don't have to worry about how to say it if we use the California way to say it, or the New York. So let's just call it IM. So we have a handful of middle schools that are currently implementing IM, and the rest of our middle schools will join in September. So we are currently in the process of building capacity for this transition. We are training teachers and administrators, and also purchasing materials, workbooks, online licenses, and everything that we need to start strong in September. So why this curriculum? Like, why IM? IM is a problem-based curriculum, and in a problem-based curriculum, students work on a handful of very carefully crafted and sequenced mathematical problems during most of the instructional time, rather than solving a series of very similar problems. Decades of research show that traditional models of direct instruction followed by repeated practice, it just doesn't work. The learning that happens with this direct approach is usually very temporary, and students tend to forget quickly after they take a test. They also do not develop strategies for tackling non-routine problems or engage in productive struggle to solve problems that look unfamiliar. In IM, you won't see teachers modeling a problem and then asking students to solve 10 additional problems on the same topic. Instead, students collaborate to engage in more challenging tasks to develop deeper conceptual understanding. Students are encouraged to take an active role and to see what they can find out before they are told what to do. IM has also embedded high leverage instructional routines. With this curriculum, teachers have to shift their instruction to facilitate students' learning rather than to tell them or model for them constantly what to do. They do this by implementing these routines or teacher moves to guide students in understanding and making connections between concepts and procedures. The kind of instruction appropriate in any particular lesson depends on the learning goals for that lesson. Some lessons may be devoted to developing a concept, or mastering a given procedural skill, or to apply a math concept. And the developers of this curriculum paired each activity in a very intentional way to the instructional routine that will maximize students' learning. There are 18 instructional routines embedded throughout the curriculum, Teachers are trained on how to implement them. Some of them are very simple and self-explanatory, like think, pair, share, or which one doesn't belong, which every teacher can easily implement and they know exactly what it is, while others are a little more complex and require more time for teachers to learn and use properly in the class. Like, for example, informational gap or 3 reads. All these routines become more and more familiar to teachers and students as the year progresses. Superintendent Maguire has a link with all of the 18 practices. I don't know if you want to share now in the chat, but that document has like a very brief description of each one of these 18 routines that are embedded throughout the curriculum. Some of these instructional routines, 8 of them to be precise, are called math language routines. They were developed by Stanford University a few years ago to support English language learners. This research has as an objective to shift the focus from how students can write certain words and their definition to how they can use them in situations where they are useful to them by doing math. Rather than teaching them math vocabulary in a traditional way, they learned that it was more useful to think about how to use math language for various academic purposes, like explaining or comparing or justifying. After years of implementation.
Sorry, could you please slow down a little bit? We cannot do the interpretation. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes. So after years of implementation, the routines have proven effective not only for ENLs, but for all students. So even if these math language routines were intended originally for ENLs, they can be used with everyone in the classroom. They provide all students with the opportunity to engage in academic conversations and make use of mathematical vocabulary in a way that's functional. So students feel like they need words. For example, it becomes very difficult for the students to talk about fractions without using the word fraction. Having to describe what a fraction is more problematic, it's time consuming, it's not efficient. So when students are put in a situation where they need to explain, justify, and talk about mathematics, the acquisition of math vocabulary is stronger. And that is especially very important for ENLs, but it has proven very effective also for all students. So Kelly, maybe you can advance to the next slide. So one example of these routines is information gap. The purpose of this is to create that need for students to communicate, like I was saying earlier. It's forcing students to have to use their math language to explain what they are thinking or what they need, what type of information they need. So it's exactly what it sounds like. The teachers present a problem and students will have an information gap. That is information that is missing, and they need to communicate and work in pairs to figure it out how to find that information. So you can move to the next one. Next slide. Yeah. So an example of this is when we pair 2 students. One student will be partner A and the other student will be partner B. Each student receives a card. The first student has a card with a problem, but that problem will be missing information. For example, the teacher can remove the numbers from the problem. So the student knows what they need to do, but they don't have enough data to do so. Student B, on the other hand, will have that missing information, the missing pieces, the numbers in this case. So students have to communicate with each other to solve the problem, and they are not allowed to show each other's cards. They cannot read them to each other, they cannot show them to each other. So they have to use their own language and their own vocabulary to ask questions. So student A can ask a student B for what they need, but we need to justify what they need that. So teachers generally have to model this for a student the first and maybe second time they implement this, but I've seen these done in classrooms, and after like the second time, students automatically jump into these conversations, and it's amazing to see the power of this routine because students start to talk in very meaningful ways. So next slide. So here are the steps that I was just describing. So students will read aloud the cards that they are given, and then they start the questioning. So for example, partner A will ask partner B, can you please tell me, let's say, what's the distance between point A and point B? And partner B can reply, why? Why do you need that information? So now is when partner A has this moment to think out loud and to make their thinking visible, either in a piece of paper, on a whiteboard, or just verbally, or thinking out loud, like, well, what exactly do I need this number for? I think I need to do this, so this number can help me with this. It's that thinking and that processing that happens. That is both conceptual mathematics, but language also, because they have to express it to their partners. Then the other partner can give them that piece of information if they are satisfied with the explanation. If not, there can be a follow-up. And this process will continue until partner A has everything necessary to solve the problem. Then the roles switch, and whoever was A now is B, whoever is B is A, and they can do another problem. Usually this happens with 2 problems at a time so that everybody can be in both roles. And that's just to give you an idea of the type of instructional routines that make the IAM curriculum so strong. We can go back to the bullet points. So in addition to the math language routines, every activity in this curriculum is structured using the 5 practices for orchestrating productive mathematical discussions. These practices have been researched for years. If you just Google it, you will see everything that's out there. There's tons of academic research and studies proving the effectiveness of these 5 practices, and this curriculum was built on that idea. These are the 5 practices: are anticipating, monitoring, selecting, sequencing, and connecting, and the activities are all following that sequence. These research-based practices emphasize the importance of the teacher as a facilitator to move students thinking forward. In addition to all of this, the IM curriculum also provides materials to support all learners. Lessons are designed to maximize access for all students. They include additional suggested supports to meet the needs of individual students. While the suggested supports are designed for students with disabilities, they are also appropriate for many children who struggle to access rigorous or grade level content, and teachers can use their own professional judgment about which supports to use and when. And this is based on the knowledge of the individual needs of the students in their classroom. In addition to that, every lesson also has supports that are specifically designed for ENLs. Some of the curriculum features that support access for all that can be found across all units are consistent lesson structure, like all the lessons are structured in the same exact way. The concepts develop from concrete to abstract. The lessons all progress from individual work, so students can think first, to pair or small group activities, to then whole class synthesis. There are opportunities to apply math to real world contexts in almost every single lesson. Conceptual processing also includes perceptual reasoning, problem solving, and metacognition. And what they call language across the curriculum includes both audio and visual language processing. And what is called memory in the curriculum includes also both working memory and short-term memory. Attention includes attention to details, maintaining focus, and filtering out any information that is unnecessary. Social emotional functioning also includes interpersonal skills and the cognitive comfort of the safety required in order to take risks and make mistakes. Every lesson also offers opportunities for students to use fine motor skill, like, for example, graphing or cutting with scissors. In addition to these supports to provide access for all our students that may struggle for one reason or another, the curriculum also have activities for those that may be ahead, and includes the section that is called Are You Ready for More? These are questions that are about applications, and they come in every single lesson. The final bullet point here is vertical alignment. The curriculum is vertically aligned all the way from kindergarten through 12th grade, or 11th if you do Algebra 2 and 11th. So this vertical alignment means that the units are all interconnected, and we can show that in a graph. Next slide. Yeah. So if we look at this unit dependency chart, an arrow in this unit indicates that a particular unit is designed for a student who already know the materials taught in a previous unit. And reversing the order of these units could have a negative impact on student learning. The sequencing and pacing is very intentional and grounded on prior research, so we're emphasizing fidelity. For example, there is an arrow there that goes from 6.2 to 6.6 because students are expected to use their knowledge of context involving ratios, which appears in 6.2, to write and solve equations representing this context in 6.6. There is also an arrow from 8.3 to 8.6 because students are expected to use their skills in writing and interpreting an equation that represents a line, which is in 8.3, to then interpret the parameters in an equation that represents a line of best fit for a scatter plot, which is in 8.6. So this happens across the entire middle school curriculum. As you can see, there is the top line is all the units in 6th grade and 7th grade and 8th grade, and all of the units are interdependent. So the next slide shows the same thing, but now all the way to Algebra 2. So now you can see it's 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, and then Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, and how all the units build on each other. This vertical alignment can increase teacher collaboration across the grade levels, since they will know exactly what students have learned previously and how they learn it. They will also use the same exact routines, like instructional routines, so a student would be familiar if they continue using the same curriculum. This can also help our administrators, like principals and assistant principals, provide more targeted feedback after classroom observations, since they will know exactly what the progression should be from grade to grades. And in a given day, for example, it is possible for an administrator to observe a 6th grade lesson, a 7th grade lesson, and an 8th grade lesson that happens to all be in a similar topic, just targeting grade level standards. Like you can see a teacher today, for instance, teaching inequalities in 6th grade, and at the same time, the 7th grade team will also be teaching inequalities, and the 8th grade team will also be teaching inequalities. The difference will be that they will be targeting grade level standards. But the topic itself is the same, so teachers can collaborate way more and share resources and build on whatever the team in the prior year is doing. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Yanette. I really appreciate it. And she assured me that the sharing of these diagrams was really going to help to reveal the way that illustrative math is laid out. And so thanks so much for such a detailed description of all of that. We are going to move on a little bit here. Just a couple of things. We are completed now with English language arts and state mathematics testing. There is a couple of updates on this. We are continuing this year with the 8th grade science exam, but the 4th grade science exam from the state, which is normally given, is on pause this year. And the reason for that is that the elementary school science exam is going to be returning next year as a 5th grade science exam, as we work toward alignment to the next generation learning standards and strengthen our science-based curriculum as well. Another quick item on state testing that came up last month was a question about the evaluation of student tests, whether they were completed on a computer-based test or whether they were completed on paper. This is the process of computer-based testing is a structure that has been in place in New York State for over 5 years. There have been several schools that have been a part of it. There is a move now toward increasing the number of schools who are participating in computer-based testing. When I checked in with our assessment department at the central level, they shared a little bit with me in regard to a study that had been completed by New York State, in which they were comparing student responses both on paper and on computer-based testing. There was some slight variations in how students were performing, and those performance variations have been adjusted or have been figured into how those assessments have been adjusted. We also have been conducting testing here in New York State and in New York City, and been conducting our own studies to compare how it is that students are performing on computer-based testing and on paper. Interestingly, the overall performance of students, while slightly different, did not vary as much as I had hypothesized as it might. But this is going to continue to be something that is studied across the city and state as we move toward the continued implementation of computer-based testing, if that is to continue to be the plan into the future. Right now, it is the plan, but things can always change. I want to extend a congratulations here district-wide to Principal Terry Ryder of the Battery Park City School. Terry has announced that at the end of the summer, she will be retiring from serving as principal of Battery Park City. Terry was the founding principal of Battery Park City School and has really grown PSIS 276 into a very strong institution in the community. And so we thank her so much for everything that she has done. Terry reminds us that she is staying on for Summer Rising and making sure that that is a very strong program. The Battery Park City School last year served close to 500 kids in Summer Rising, and Terry is off to a great start with planning and preparing and supporting Summer Rising for this coming summer as well. And we also just wanted to announce that our district has received a $100,000 mindfulness grant. That grant has been offered by New York State, and there were a few of our schools in Chinatown that really reached out to us in effort to partner to develop and put together this grant. The mindfulness grant really focuses on making sure that students are both ready for learning and that they are developing positive and productive ways to get focused, to address stress, and to support general social emotional learning needs. So the schools in the Chinatown area have been our partners with the mindfulness grant, and we look forward to more planning with them over the summer as that money starts to come into the district. And finally, a few items looking ahead for the month of May and into June, days that we are not in session and days that we are in session for professional learning for our staff. I've included a final slide here just with the contact information of all of our team members who presented this evening. Kelly Shannon is here, but she actually couldn't make it this evening. But these are the folks who presented here tonight, both myself and Deputy Superintendent Higgins, along with Yanet and Janine from our team. Alina Lyons, as Janine mentioned, is the other AIS coordinator for Community School District 2. Thank you so much for your time this evening. We wanted to make sure that we unpack and share as much as we can about the different bits of work that we are doing here in the district to help to strengthen and support the learning in our schools. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you very much, Superintendent McGuire, and thank you to your team there. I know our council members have questions, but before I go to them, I just want to also say thank you to your team for letting me so rudely interrupt you during a meeting. Was it about 2 weeks ago now, or a week and a half ago, taking out student supplies. So, and also I'd like to thank Tina Yacker as well for being so kind of her to help us out getting supplies for students. But I see a first question from Councilmember Igorov. Please.
Thank you, Ben. I have two questions, actually three. One is, what percentage of schools in our districts are already using all those literacy interventions that were mentioned? And same questions for the illustrated math. So what percentage of schools are actually implementing what was presented to us? And on the literacy, I really want to understand how we are planning to talk to teachers about not only what needs to be implemented, but also the practice that needs to stop, because we still have queuing practice in our districts. There's still kids coming home saying, I have picture power, and trying to look at the pictures instead of sounding out words. And so, and I know no teacher is doing this because, intentionally want to damage a child. I just think that they don't know that this is actually detrimental for children to learn to read. And so I think we need to really do a huge reach out campaign, not only to help them implement the practice that we know work, but also to stop the practice that are very detrimental to children. So this, and then the percentage of schools in our district that are actually doing the math and the literacy. Thank you.
Thanks for those questions. So 100% of our elementary schools are using some form of foundational literacy program. And there are only three programs that are really out there and supported across the district. Those three foundational literacy programs are Foundations, Hegarty, and Really Great Reading. Now, because those elementary schools are using those foundational literacy programs, does not mean that they might also still be using some of the queuing system curricula that are not part of the three curricula that have been identified by the central office as the district choice for the K-5 core curriculum. So, some of the language that you shared, picture power and things like that, those are not strategies that are affiliated with those three curricula. But I will say that across our district, all of our schools are using these three foundational literacy curricula to some extent. Now, that's something that we need to strengthen even more. And it's part of the reason why we've been talking about it so much here. It's part of the reason why we've been speaking so much with principals about it. In regards to illustrative math, we have 7 schools out of our 18 middle schools that are using illustrative math. Some of the schools might be using those curricula with just one grade level, and some of the schools might be using it across all grade levels in the school. Again, in the coming year, all of our middle schools will be moving to illustrative math. In regard to training and supporting schools to make sure that we are doing the very best that we can for kids and teaching and reinforcing practices. That is part of the reason why we're engaged in so much professional development over the summer, in partnership with principals, in partnership with teachers. We want to make sure that our principals, if they are not yet already, that they are truly experts in the curricula that we are sharing, both the K-5 literacy curricula, the foundational literacy curricula, and illustrative math. When our principals and assistant principals and coaches go into classrooms, they need to know very well what is excellent so that they can support teachers in using that across the schools. But we are planning a very robust summer of learning alongside teachers to make sure that they are using as many of these practices that are truly the ones that we want to target across our schools.
I just want to make a follow-up comment. I think it's so problematic that the answer is, and I know it will take time, but to a certain extent, it's not gonna get the results we need. And I'm just very concerned because there are already principals telling their SLTs, we're gonna adopt this because we have to, but nothing's gonna change. And so I think it's just very, very concerning if we continue allowing schools to continue, the Lucy Hawkins and all those strategies that don't work, because then we're not gonna get the results that, we know we can get with these new curriculums. Thank you.
I will say that in regard to the foundational literacy work that Janine presented, we have very strong buy-in from our principals and assistant principals and teachers on that work.
I don't know if you saw today, but the principals union put a letter out saying that they are kind of against this initiative. So we have a lot of work to do on that front. And again, whatever I can do to support this, I'm available because I think it's so important.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Igor. Councilmember Sim?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the illustration on how the IM mapping works. I have a question with regards to partnering, because I think there seems to be a lot of collaborative learning across pupils, which I think is great. But how does the IM curriculum manage if there's a question, for example, if you need to figure out the sides of a triangle and one pupil knows Pythagoras' theorem and the other one doesn't?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I won't speak to that specifically, but I definitely understand the place where you're coming from. How is it that we address using these mathematical routines when we have students who are performing at different grade levels in the classroom? And I think that that's a very valid question. And so one of the ways in which we are going to need to make sure that we are training and supporting our teachers is so that they know the curriculum very, very well, and so that they can determine when partnerships can be done with students who are heterogeneously grouped and when they are done with students who are homogeneously grouped. There is a time and place for grouping students together of like ability, and there are time and place where that doesn't matter so much. So that's one way that I will, talk about that too. On a more structural level, what I'll say is that, we are instituting across the district this work in regard to both the traditional pathway of mathematics and the honors level pathway of mathematics, which puts 3 years of math into 2 years. And so, but this is all going to be supported as our teachers get to know the curriculum better, and as they are able to make sure that they are doing a good job with those student groupings.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Sim. Councilmember Hernandez, you have the floor.
Can you unmute my other device or give me co-hosting? Thank you very much. Good evening, Superintendent Kelly McGuire. I appreciate the presentation from all of your colleagues. And I'm glad you brought up some of the concerns from constituents regarding some of the curriculums that have been implemented. And one thing I will say is District 2, along with District 1, huge advocates came from our citywide councils and community education councils. I have to shout out our Literacy Academy collective, both former CEC2 Emily Hellstrom and Naomi Pena from CEC1, along with Aquila and many of the other mothers. I think District 2, we've been leading in behind the science of reading, and I'm glad that there's recognition. But in regards to the training piece, of our educators, and you brought up great points, how I'm not seeing it in the funding in the budget this year, in how this is going to be trained throughout the educators. And I also didn't hear today from this administration how we're addressing our older students with dyslexia and where that intervention is going to begin, especially on the middle school level. So if you can just tell us a little bit about that and what the collaboration or any community engagement from our educators and principals in regards to the curriculums that were considered. I think we all are in agreement that Lucy Calkins was not working, and we need structured rather than the balanced literacy that has been implemented throughout our decades. But I'm just wondering if these three particular curricula are really addressing those. And I know you said you have a lot of buy-in, but I'm just wondering about the collaboration of the educators that would be the ones implementing it, and what that practice will look like in training and how soon we're going to be able to get this going. And then I'll follow up with the question regarding the math after.
Sure. So I will say that some of the training has been funded centrally. Janine mentioned earlier that there was a visit to PS 198 today. And that is a follow-up to a training that we had done with all of our principals yesterday in regard to this letters curriculum, to make sure that our principals are as knowledgeable as can be in regards to the foundational literacy work, the science of reading. So that kind of programming and support has been paid for centrally, and then we are relying on and really using our schools that have been implementing this work well. We went to PS 198 today. We did a visit earlier in the year to PS 51 that was implementing some truly remarkable strategies across their school to serve all of their learners in the science of reading, in foundational literacy. So, I appreciate what you're asking, and the fact that you are talking about it as a partnership. Not all of these things are funded, and we need to make sure that we are leveraging all of the supports that we have in our district to make sure that the best practices are being shared across the district. When our district moves into phase 2 and the development and implementation of the K-5 core curriculum, then our district will have access to all of the funding and resources that schools who are in phase 1 have been introduced for next year, that they are going to be introduced to next year. It's a ton of professional development, it's a ton of materials, it's a ton of extra funding to help to make sure that teachers are brought up to speed and learning everything that they need to in order to implement this curriculum well. I'm not sure if I got to all the questions that you had asked, but you did talk a little bit about, you mentioned something about students in upper grade elementary, which is certainly a challenge for sure. One of the tools that is now in place across the city is that Acadian screener that Janine had shared. And that same type of screener is in place for mathematics as well. And so the fact that we have this structure in place across the city in regard to these temperature checks of students, are we responding to their needs? Are we providing curricula that is what students need, I think is a huge step forward for us as a system.
No, I appreciate you hearing me, and I was definitely concerned about the budget issue, and we shall make sure to include that within the city negotiations that are upcoming. Regarding the math, I guess, is it Similar to, I think I've spoken to you about what was considered like an integrated math program that kind of introduced, algebra, geometry, trig, and such at various points, but all within the same grade span. I'm just wondering, I hear that we already have some schools using this. Can the algebra come in at an earlier time? I saw that in the slides that it has it only in high school. And I know we are trying to increase the ability for our middle school students to be able to take these classes. And I know they've been offered throughout most of our lifetimes and in the 8th grade. Is that something that is incorporated within this illustrative math?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the algebra course is traditionally a high school level course. However, the algebra strand of the curriculum is something that is introduced to all students in 6th grade. So students begin learning about what algebra is, practicing with basic algebra in the earliest grades. But then the actual course is not something that is traditionally provided to students until high school. So that's when you saw that flow chart, you saw algebra coming after 8th grade. That's just the course name, but the strand of curricula is something that's introduced to students earlier.
Okay, thank you. And that pathway, is it available though at an earlier grade span to be able to introduce the higher coursework?
Yeah, so I mean, the pathway that we are, that is our strategy here in District 2 is to provide this pathway to algebra that begins in 6th grade. There are some places, and even here in District 2, there are schools that have traditionally used, or traditionally provided algebra for all in 8th grade, which is great. And if the student body is prepared for that to do really well on that assessment, on that Regents assessment, then great. But what we want to do is that we want to make sure that we are not just passing as many students as possible in algebra, but that they are completing the algebra Regents and scoring. Our goal is an 85 or higher for all students. And so that is why we are starting this pathway earlier.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Hernandez. Councilmember Das, our Vice President.
Hi. For both, a couple of different questions. First, state tests. Do we have any indication of what percentage of kids participated this year in our district?
I don't have the actual percentage. The numbers anecdotally are incredibly small that have opted out. I'm sorry. The number of opt-outs in our district is incredibly small. That's just anecdotal.
Okay. Were principals encouraging kids to take tests or discouraging them? Because we've heard reports of both over the years.
We always, our stance is that students take the test.
Do we know if there's follow through from all the principals on that?
I have no reason to believe that they were not.
Okay. I disagree that because there have been times in the past where principals have discouraged that specifically. But going to the both the reading program and the math program, and in both presentations I heard said it caters to students of all learners, students of all types. Is there any specific examples for both? Because I think it's been a central conflict in many of our meetings. How do we cater to kids who need additional supports, as well as how do you cater to advanced learners? I hear that mentioned a lot in a lot of programs, but I think that's something that's difficult to do, that we've raised on multiple occasions. Is there a way to get some specific examples surrounding that on both ends of the spectrum, or is there additional? We talked last time about CEC wanted to partner with us, and again, having parent leaders being able to see this in action. Is that, that's a loaded question, but also around how do we know we're actually getting both, supporting all learners, and can we see that in action?
Yeah, I mean, tonight, what part of the intention of bringing Janine and Yanette to the meeting and asking them to share was to provide as much of a look into these two different curriculum. Illustrative math is a curriculum. Some of the foundational work is there are curricular supports that are there. That's not necessarily the K-5 curriculum that we are talking about, but the intention of having them come was to provide more details and information in regard to what it is that we're actually looking at when students are in the classroom. In regard to illustrative math, Yanette did mention that there was there were different strategies that were in place to help students who are ready for more. I think that's actually like the section of the lesson planning and unit planning that was discussed, introducing that to kids so that they can go on to the "Are you ready for more" section. In regards to the foundational literacy work, it's interesting in our district, we have across the district 80% or so of students who are proficient in reading. But, you saw in that screener assessment that, they're not coming in proficient necessarily. Mid-year 70 going from 59% proficient to 73% proficient in first grade is strong growth. But it obviously shows that there is work that still needs to be done with a wide number of students across the district. In regard to both of these things, we have not, as a system, focused on doing the same thing, supporting the same thing, coming together around a set of common expectations. And so I think that the problem that we've run into is that the implementation of these programs has not always been consistent. And the setting of expectations has not always been consistent, and the training has not always been consistent. So what I just would say is that by having a common set of curricula, we can do a much better job of supporting kids who are performing at different grade levels. And then certainly within these two examples that we saw today, there were very clear examples of how it is that you adjust the curriculum depending on who it is that you're supporting in the classroom.
I mean, with respect, I saw a flow chart, but that's how that actually happens in real life is very different. And I think primary among parents' concerns, I think on both sides of the spectrum. So I'm going to continue to reiterate my request for, if you want to partner with CEC, then at some point there has to be some interaction with the actual principals and teachers on this. So is there a way for us to actually see this in action?
Yeah, I mean, what we are doing is that we are going to be putting together a bunch of different opportunities for parents to see the work in action. So whether that is school to school, opening up classrooms and schools to see the curriculum in the classrooms, or whether we're facilitating something like that at the district level. I heard your request in the last meeting, and we are working towards some plans to do that.
Okay. And then lastly, I guess, so just want to explain the other thing, the opt-out. I guess I am still concerned. I just want to explain this before we move on to the next point. I want to explain the opt-out concern. I mean, there are concerns regarding that because, like I said, there have been principals in the past who have supported opting out and been vocal about it. But then also, even our borough president's appointee to the PEP has been very vocal about pushing opt-out, and she's supposed to be our Manhattan rep, even though I don't think that she supports the voices of the majority of parents, at the very least, a large percentage of the parents. So I kind of, is there, yeah, I guess I do read it the concern, or is there any way to get, I know you don't have them yet, but is there any way to get some more concrete numbers on how many people actually, percentage of students that actually opted out? Because doesn't that affect our funding in the end? Our funding by school, or has that changed?
Well, the past rules would result, I mean, cuts to funding were something that was always threatened but never followed through on. But that was always the original rule around No Child Left Behind, that a certain percentage of kids in each school had to take the assessment. And if a school didn't hit that benchmark, or a district didn't hit that benchmark, then there was the threat of funding to be cut. In our district, I mean, the official numbers won't be available until we get more data from state tests, and that those data are vetted and released publicly. It's not something that I have direct access to here. I just will say that in our district, we have historically had a very small number of kids who have opted out, or families who have opted their kids out of testing. Again, just this is not something that has come to my attention this year.
I mean, I think it's important that the borough president's appointee is pushing it. But and then the last question is regarding continuation on the funding. I'm curious how you feel confident there is funding for all this. I know this isn't you that decides this, but you did express optimism on this, and I'm curious. How are we so confident there is funding for all this in terms of a long-term plan, when we know that when the chancellor's talking about things like implementing class size could cost the city up to $90 billion, which we're not going to get. I mean, 90 billion, just so people have an understanding, that's more than all the different programs put together: education, police, fire, ambulance, roads, MTA, etc. Right? Yeah. So how are we confident that's coming when that's still as of yet unfunded and an extraordinarily large number?
Yeah. I can just cite what I have been learning about the ways in which the Central Business Office, the Central Department of Education Business Office, has been reporting that the contracts that they've been engaging various publishers in to provide not just the curriculum, but the professional learning support. So we've been hearing a lot about those contracts, that those contracts are extending over a number of years in effort to implement this reading program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Dawes. Recording Secretary Kelleher, yes.
Thank you. Kelly, I have a question. I was a bit shocked tonight to hear about the science test for fourth graders. I have a fourth grader who was excited to take the science test. Given the fact that the last meeting talked about the need for more science, the two don't reconcile, I guess. It's causing a little cognitive dissonance. Why cancel the test when we're just talking about how important science was? It seems like a step in the wrong direction. It's my first question. I have another, but wanted to ask that first.
Yep, this is a state level decision in order to make sure that as we transition to the fifth grade assessment, that teachers are prepared and ready with the new expectations that are going to be on that fifth grade test. So yeah, but that's part of
Why does that affect fourth grade?
I'm sorry?
Why does that affect fourth grade?
It's I mean, again, it's because the intention, I think, is that whatever it is that you teach, you want to make sure that you are assessing. And right now, the changes to curriculum would not necessarily match that old test because the new test is coming out in fifth grade. We want to make sure that kids who are currently in fourth grade are getting access to the kind of material that they're going to need in fifth grade. So that's a 2-year process. Learning what they are going to be learning now and next year, so that they are prepared for that fifth grade assessment.
So if I hear you correctly, they've already started the new science program
There have been changes to the standards, yeah.
currently.
Currently.
Okay. My other question is about opting out. You said that the DOE was pushing everyone to take the test, and that you're hearing that the numbers were very low. I don't know if you know, but our borough Manhattan rep, but Kushwood mentioned it, but Dr. Melendez put out a video in this. She and her son were encouraging people in this meeting to opt out. And I'm wondering how you feel about that, given the fact that you're saying that the DOE wanted students to take the test.
Yeah, I mean, our position is always that the state assessment is an important tool for us to use to evaluate student learning long term. And that's the message that I send to our principals. That is, that's the topic of conversation that exists amongst our principals. I can't comment specifically on anything that one member of the community had shared on that. I'm not familiar with that, but again, the rates of students who take the state exams in our district is very high, if not one of the highest, if not the highest in the city. I'd have to, just historically, I don't know what it is this year, but historically that hasn't been a conversation in this district.
Okay. Well, I hope that most people did take the test, and next time I hope the DOE and its representatives are more aligned.
Thank you, Councilmember Kelleher. Councilmember Kwok, our treasurer.
Yes, thank you, Superintendent McGuire and your team. I guess I just want to express that I am very unhappy to hear that the fourth grade science test was canceled and not even given any sufficient notice. I think these are decisions made not necessarily in your hand, but I think it's another sign of the deterioration of our academic standards, that even a fourth grade test is now can't be spared. Like you said, we're taking temperatures. All the state tests, your Acadians, your iReady, they're all temperature taking. They're thermometers, and not having one just to tell us how our students are doing, and then not having that assessment. We wait for the next thing. We could say that about every single thing. Wait till it's perfect. Wait till the next thing. Well, our kids can't wait. They lose a year. Adults work in years, decades. Kids work in days, and they truly need all the support and the assessment about how well they've done, so that families and their parents know, and also to check on the teachers' teaching effectiveness. If you don't have any kind of assessments that are standardized and objective, then you will always be subject to inflated grades that are at the whims of particular teachers, and even teachers in the same building teaching the same grade, the same subject won't agree on that same standard. So hence, you agree that we need a thermometer and the testing that you've done, and you also then have you need to keep that. And I know it's not your decision, but I just want to make a statement about that. And as far as the illustrative math, I'm just curious, what other cities, districts, countries is it used in, and what are the results of adopting that, and how effective is that program compared to maybe others? I mean, we've talked a lot about the science of reading. It took us a decade or 2 decades to understand that what we were doing was completely wrong and it was harmful. How do we know that illustrative math, what evidence is that it actually works better than the Common Core that Engage New York had been doing, or any other methods that are out there? Thank you.
No, thanks for that question. And I will have to return to the council to share a little bit more about which cities the illustrative math is currently being taught in. I do know that it is widely used across the country in extremely wealthy districts, as well as districts that have high rates of poverty. That is information that I can get back to you. This is But illustrative math is a curriculum that is rated very highly in regard to being aligned with next generation learning standards. I would just say that it does connect very much with what it is that we've learned about how students are not just learn but also retain mathematics. We thankfully have moved away from, as Yanette said, one example on the chalkboard and then, complete a page of 50 problems. That's not to say that repetition in some places is not a useful tool, but what we want to do is make sure that through the curriculum that we're teaching, that it's not only perfectly aligned with the standards that we are working toward, but also that it is creating that lasting knowledge of mathematics, building that mathematical thinking muscle, and that's what we see the benefits of in it. Illustrative math, the curricula that we are using is being adopted by the city in 9th grade. So you'll see a lot of high schools in the city next year moving to illustrative math. We are going to be doing that in our middle schools.
Thank you.
Our parliamentarian, Councilmember Silverman, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree with Councilmember Kwok's comments. It's just amazing to me that we continue to find reasons to scrap all these tests, all these objective measures. Now, people can debate whether or not something is objective back and forth, but it just boggles the mind how we can have a situation where there's no testing whatsoever. I mean, that's what we're headed towards. I mean, that's the ideology that is clearly embraced by the people who seem to be in charge in New York State right now. And you can stick your head in the sand and you can say, all right, these tests are discriminatory and they're racist, and you can say whatever you want. But the fact is that our kids have to compete. They have to go out many of them will leave the state to go to school, and they're going to be in for a rude awakening. And I really question the value of an education in New York where we have no idea, no objective criteria to demonstrate what our students are learning. So it is disappointing to see, particularly with regard to the science test. I mean, it's just another example of something being scrapped for reasons that potentially has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not people are learning science. I'm sure that any reasons behind that are strictly based on politics, on ideology, on things that have nothing to do whether our students are learning the material. So I would hope that that this isn't another harbinger of the times that lay ahead, and that we're just in for the continuing lowering of standards in our state. And those standards apply to everyone. And we have to make sure there's a minimum competency here. And I just think you're not serving those, not effectively evaluating your students if you don't have some sort of objective criteria to evaluate them.
I just want to make sure that I said it and that it didn't get lost, is that the 4th grade test is going to be replaced by a 5th grade science test next year. And I do think that this refocus on elementary school science is a positive thing.
And I get that. No, I absolutely get that, and I understand. But again, each year we're pushing it back a little further. That's all. We're just not really determining whether or not the kids have certain fundamentals. Now it's 5th grade, so I think all along this process we should be evaluating, measuring, quantifying, just to determine basic proficiencies. And I think that's why we can't just say, all right, we're scrapping something in 4th grade for something in 5th grade. I think next thing you know, the 5th grade test will be scrapped for 6th grade tests, and there won't be any tests. So there's no reason why you can't have both. I haven't heard an explanation as to why you can't have a 4th grade and a 5th grade test. But I understand what you're saying. But again, we have to really make sure that our kids comprehend learning. And I'm not sure if you can do that when you have 1,000 different standards across an individual school or a district. It's too complicated.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Silverman. Are there any other council member questions for the superintendent? Okay, then I'll go. Superintendent McGuire, I wish Janine Michelle was still here. I think, did she leave? Yeah, that's what I thought. I had a technical question for her because she, maybe you can answer it for us. The diagnostic that she showed, which I thought was useful. Do you find out from on a school basis or what areas that students are having the most difficulty, you know, whether it's the phonics, phonemic awareness, you know, what other areas? Because if you could start grouping them, then you could see where the intervention, not specifically on per student, but for where the school is exceptionally well at and where they could need more work with, and vice versa for other schools too, you know, and where we need more training as a district, you know. So do you get breakdowns of that, like high level executive breakdowns?
Yes, yes, we do. And I'll, you know, Reggie was an elementary school principal before he joined the team here. So if there's anything you want to, you know, fill in, please feel free to do so. But those little half donuts that Janine showed us, so those were profiles of first grade across the entire district. We get those for every single child. And it's not just one per child, it's I think 3 or 4. This is where Reggie might come in a little bit better than me on this one. But those 3 or 4 are an evaluation of individual literacy skills per child. I don't know, Reggie, if you want to share anything in addition to that.
Kelly, I think that's it. I think the most important thing is, you know, as President Morton alluded to, that as a principal, you are able to kind of examine which students are struggling in certain components and thinking about different ways that you might provide more support, and maybe even changing program to provide that support where necessary to ensure that students can become proficient. It's also an opportunity for principals to think about, is this, let's say, phonemic awareness, which is what Hegarty is, you know, really checking, is it really having the kind of impact that I think it should on my students? And if it is, how do I know that the screener data is really being used to help gauge that information? But also, it could be that maybe the teachers also need more professional development because maybe they don't really understand how to utilize a tool correctly, or it could just be that there are some foundational gaps in the student's performance. But either way, the data is very helpful to inform the principal around decisions that need to be made within their school's instructional program.
Well, that's the first time I'm hearing all that, and I think that's very exciting. I think on a district level, it'd be great to have that information shared so we can advocate more on that, and you know, and maybe also as parents, you know, to work with our children. You know, when we find out, you know, on what level we need, you know, support for our children on a you know, as a district, you know, as a school or so. But I think that's great, you know, that you're getting that kind of data. And again, I wish that was shared. I also noticed in that screen that there was a jump from the beginning of the year to the middle of the year in terms of students enrolled. I assume, would that be because of asylum-seeking students increased, or is that just normal increase in enrollment within a year?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I saw that too. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, I found Janine's you know, what she shared with us very informative and timely today. So thank you so much, as well as the math curriculum review as well. Thank you. Is there anything else from your office that you want to share? No, that's it.
No, thanks so much for giving us the chance to share.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Oh, I see a hand. Councilmember Patel, yes.
Hi, good evening, Superintendent McGuire. So two things I just want to say quickly. One, having sat through almost many of these meetings with various chat messages happening and some monitoring, some not monitoring of it, I just want to say to Ms. Rojas, thank you. And as far as I'm concerned, your voice will always be very valuable on this council and in support of whatever issues that you have been fighting for pretty much your entire life. Second, with respect to the presentation on standardized testing, I think it's a little bit disingenuous to acknowledge that there might be some objective debate as to the wisdom of standardized testing or as to the actual efficacy of it in testing anything, and acknowledging that perhaps standardized tests could potentially be skewed in favor of certain races and cultures, and then accusing people who believe that they are of burying their head in the sand. This is a much larger conversation around testing, and I do think that it is a conversation worth having, but I think we should be careful as to how we say that we can acknowledge that something is a certain way, but then not acknowledge it at the same time. That's all.
Okay, thank you. We're moving on to the next item, which would be our committee reports. Councilmember Doss, you're muted.
Never mind. Continue.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Are there any council members with committee reports? Yes, Councilmember Kelleher, our recording secretary.
Hi, sorry, I'm multitasking. I just wanted to bring up, Ben, you were a big part of this. So I want to say thank you first. Students in temporary housing and students of economic need, we had money transferred over from our balance to our committee, and we are planning to gift 6,800 pencil cases to students in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade in District 2. We had a huge amount of help from the community. We had about 100 people come to PS 33. Our principal, Cindy Wang, was extremely generous in allowing boxes to be stored in the basement. Our maintenance workers were, Kelly, the day that the boxes arrived at the DOE office, I know you can remember, there was a giant moving truck worth of boxes that showed up at the DOE office. They'd been returned at one point about a month earlier. They arrived, the DOE sent them away, and our administrative assistant, who's no longer here, worked with us, and we were able to reroute in about 5 minutes time to PS 33. And our principal had no idea what she was getting into, but a giant moving truck brought about 9 giant freights, that each of which would not fit through the front door, worth of supplies. And our maintenance team was extremely helpful and helped us unpack these crates and move them all to the basement. And then over the span of a long day on a Saturday, and that Friday before, we'll include that since Ben and Daniela had to pick up the supplies from the DOE that had already been that had already arrived and were being stored there, and bring them to 33. But we had a huge turnout from the community. People were very responsive, wanted to help out. We had lots of students, lots of teenagers. We had parents who didn't have kids. We had parents from schools all over the district, private schools as well, come and help us package these pencil cases. We have some pictures. I'm hopeful that Koshik or Ben will be able to put them up for you to see. Additionally, my hope is that all council members will help this time, and will reach out to your liaison schools and to Ben. He has a list of how many boxes should go to each school. And you can deliver them to your liaison schools yourselves. Since we have, Lupe, let me finish and then I'll answer your question. I see your hand. Since we have so many that need to be given out, 6,800, and we have about 57, I believe, elementary schools that should be receiving these cases. We need help. We need people to help drive. Ideally, 2 people to a car would be great, so people can double park and someone can jump out and deliver these boxes. But I just want to say thank you so much to everyone involved. So many members from PS33 were there, PS11, PS111, PS234, a bunch from Brooklyn, a bunch from United Nations School where my son goes. It was a really wonderful turnout. Ben, I know I'm missing some stuff, so do you want to jump in and add maybe to what I've missed? Or Jeannie, you were there as well for the morning. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Oh, it was amazing. It was a huge coordination of effort because we were there for 2.5 hours, and there was people there from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I really do think that it's one of these things is it takes a village. There were kids in first, second, third, fourth grade, and it was so cute to work with them. Like, I remember we're stacking boxes and a third grader's like, what do you want me to do next? I'm like, well, put the boxes over there. When you're done, come and find. Like, everybody wanted to do something, and they all had a single purpose of getting the boxes together. They knew what to do, and they were doing something for the greater good. My son came with me. I think it's just a great community effort. And I honestly, it really was very helpful that PS33 allowed us to use the basement. I mean, I couldn't fathom how many boxes there were. Like, I was thinking, oh, maybe it'll be, 100. Literally, there were like 500 boxes of different things. And I think stuff wasn't organized. Like, the boxes, were just, so I think the team that was there, your husband, everybody else, first they had to unload everything and categorize stuff. So it was really a big effort across everybody. I think it was just it was just quite enlightening and have everybody come together like that.
I also want to add on that a lot of these people who helped, especially those who don't have children and from other communities, have been helping with my attempts to help students who've recently arrived from Venezuela and from other countries. And they've been asking how else they can help. So it was a good opportunity to bring them in, and they also brought friends. So now the community of people who want to help these students has grown. And many of them, while we were there chatting on that Saturday, said, like, I want to do more, please keep me informed. And there was one parent coordinator who said, we have a bunch of students coming, I need help, what can we do? And I was able to connect her with someone from another school who had a bunch of students. It was a private school, and these students all wanted to help out. So through this type of activity, we were able to liaison more people and more communities and more schools in a way that would be difficult to do in any other format. So long story, the collection of people we have who now want to help with students in temporary housing and the newly arrived students has grown. And I'm grateful to everyone who helped. So I see there are questions.
Yeah, I just want to mention two things real quickly. First of all, I felt like going into the basement there, that we were in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the last scene there with the warehouse where so many boxes.
I have a picture of that.
Yeah. But I did want to ask our Superintendent McGuire if it would be okay if you could just give a heads up to the principals that we're going to start delivering all this to the schools. It's for 3rd and 4th, 5th graders, and so they're not shocked when we arrive with these boxes.
Sure. We also have these beautiful stickers, designs that an artist made for us to be used. The labels themselves never arrived from the DOE vendors, so hopeful that we can pass that over to the next CEC since we already budgeted it. The next council can use that for whatever they want to use. They can use the pictures that were done pro bono. So hopefully those won't go to waste. Sonal, I think you have your hand raised. I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, just unmuting. So I think all of that is really great. I really do love to see communities come together, and it sounds like the work that's been happening has been really fantastic, and all of the toiling. And I think it's amazing because so many of these families have lived in toiling circumstances, right? And this is what we are now doing on their behalf and sort of celebrating our efforts. But there's a real, I think, awareness that we should all have that the families that we are attempting to assist have experienced all of this, community gathering and working and helping each other and really working hard for themselves. And on that note, you know, while we are talking about students in temporary housing and, you know, the sort of notion of helping them, I think it's important, just as important for us then to recognize that when it comes to decisions around school funding and weighting formulas for students in temporary housing, that we should also keep in mind and consider that this is actually a population that we want to help beyond the photos and beyond, you know, sort of the pats on the back that we all love to give each other.
Sarah, was there a question?
Nope, just comment.
Oh, that we should consider helping them?
Yeah, that we should consider all of this feel-good energy around how we're helping students with temporary housing when we're actually thinking about how we're going to fund or perhaps provide additional funding to students in temporary housing. Maybe the question is
you're new to the council, and I just wanted to let you know that that's what I've been advocating for with Ushma. She's no longer on the council, but that's what I've been advocating for this entire year.
This is not personal. I'm just saying, can we as a council agree? I'm speaking. Can we as a council agree
cut me off.
That if we're going to
so no, I was speaking, parliamentarian.
Go ahead.
You guys got to figure out between yourselves who is the floor. The chair has to recognize one person or another.
You go, Robin. Go ahead.
Robin, you're muted.
Sorry, someone just muted me.
Yeah. Whoever's pressing the mute button, because I was been muted a few times too. Please, let's stop with that, or we'll just look at the logs.
So for our final 2 months, let's just try not to do that mute game. So Sonal, I just want to let you know that this is what we've all been doing. And fortunately, I've had the support of the entire council. And this is what we have been doing. And I was really grateful to Superintendent McGuire when he came back and answered my question about the Spanish. I had asked him last month about summarizing and if there'd be lessons for the asylum seekers to help them learn English and Spanish, if they would be additional resources allocated to them so that I could pass that along to the families who've been asking those questions. Because we have at my son's school about 130 asylum seekers. I don't know if you have any at your school, but we have many. And then in my son's middle school, we also have many asylum seeker families, and I have personal relationships with many of them. So I promise you that that's exactly what our council has been doing already.
Robin, I'm commending you. This is not an argument. I'm commending the work that you and this council has done. I know the work you're doing with you.
Thank you so much.
My point is that it has to be a cohesive help, right? Not just a volunteering of goods and items, but when it comes to making decisions and sacrifices around how we're going to define education policy, that it should be consistent. That's all.
So you'll volunteer to help, right? With the
I've already been doing a lot.
Transferring the project to transfer
100%. Robin, you don't.
I would have loved to have your help the other day.
On the ground all the time. I had no idea what you were doing because you didn't tell me. So,
oh, I did. I brought it up many times during the meetings. I did.
I've been on one meeting, so unless there's been another one.
You said you
all right. Thank you, everybody.
That's okay. It's getting late. I'm tired of this.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions regarding the STH committee? No. Okay. Do we have any other?
Mention the chess? Do you want to mention that one more time, since there is a big initiative?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's finalized yet. I believe the after-school chess program that was initially created for asylum-seeking students, but it's open to all students. But it's for asylum-seeking students. There's an issue with them getting space after their access to space is ending, but the business improvement district from Times Square has reached out to the organization, the Gift of Chess, to see if they could find some space for them to continue their program, which is useful because it's in the Times Square area and where a lot of the shelters are located. So that's the aim. So that it could be centrally located, so more of the students can participate in the after-school program. And on top of that, there are a number of students from, well, there are 4.
Yes,
but
11 and it's 33. The ones who won the awards.
Yeah. No. that a few of the students are going to be participating in the nationals, in the elementary school nationals. I think it's next weekend
But
well,
Coach Russ has pictures of these kids from
Yep.
the local schools who, and
Yeah.
it's so like heartwarming to see the kids and their parents so happy and like holding their chess trophies and like just at these chess tournaments. It's really a wonderful feeling. We should bring the pictures next time because it is nice to see, you know, some
I'm just shocked they're participating in the nationals, because they've only started this program in January, and some of these kids are already like 600-700 rating points. You know, that sometimes it takes 2-3 years, and they've picked it up really quickly. So it's phenomenal, and I'm glad to see that's worked out for them. But I could talk about chess for the next 6 hours, and so I'm going to stop myself and intervene. And I believe, is that it, the SCH committee, or is there anything else that you want to discuss?
It was just that, well, we'll send out another email about asking for volunteers, so we can actually pick a day, more likely 2 or 3 days, to transport the items from PS33, because I know Cindy wants them and maintenance wants them out of the basement as soon as possible, if possible.
Yeah, thank you for organizing that. It's a lot of work, I know. Thank you. Councilmember Hernandez, I believe you have something you want to say about your committee? Please.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing me. Appreciate that, Chair. Yes, and before I do give my Students with Disability Committee update, I do want to just raise all of the great work that District 2 is doing, but at the same time, we really need to protect the privacy of these families, and we should not be disclosing where they live, how many are at what school. That is complete violation. So just want to make sure that we are protecting the privacy of all the families that we all want to help. I'm really happy about the summarizing for our students with disabilities that rely on school transportation, our yellow buses. We had a great win this summer with the ability for those that want to participate in the enrichment program after school will be eligible for ride shares. So we want to make sure families are aware of that. In the past, as we know, our students with disabilities that do rely on school transportation, such as yellow buses, are unable to participate in our after schools. The SERS, which was the Special Education Recovery Services, something that we are raising in regards to changing that. And I will just like to thank those that were able to put this, the PEP, they did pass this, and there will be some funding for these students to be able to access the enrichment and fun part of summarizing. And just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. And hopefully we are pushing for something quite similar to be able to be rolled out. Ideally, of course, we want better bus quality services and make sure our busing are actually showing up to pick up our kids and get them to school on time. So I will recognize that although the funding is great to have, it does concern me. And Kelly, I don't know, I mean, I definitely have raised this with the cabinet, but it does concern me that they are basically anticipating 500 a day of children not being picked up for their buses to have this ride share allocated for them. It's great to have. Many family members were not able to afford to pay for that upfront when they needed that busing. So I just want to raise both points. We need it, thank you. But long-term, sustainably, we really need to think about ways to be able to contract bus companies that are going to make sure to get our kids, and that means sustainable workforce, and that would go a long way. So, but thank you for listening, and I'm excited for those that get to participate in a full summarizing day.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Hernandez. Are there any other council members with committee reports? Okay, so then we move to the next item on the agenda. Discussion resolutions, but there are no resolutions. So let's move on to the next item, which will be the second speaking session. And I only see 3 people signed up still. So just throw that in the chat.
Okay. Ben, do we have the timer set up?
Actually, I need to do that. Just one moment.
Okay.
So, we get 2 minutes.
The first speaker, hopefully everyone can see this, is going to be Tamara Reed.
All right, so she wasn't here for this first session.
I don't see
No,
her.
I don't see her. No. Okay,
So Kalani Jenkins.
1 second. Here.
Okay, so I just said Robin Kelleher into the waiting room. I'm not sure what that is, but
Okay.
Kalani, are you on here? I saw her earlier.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Can I just have, sorry, can I go after the next person? I just need 1 second.
Sure. Okay. So Richard Connolly from the American Debate League.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, hi, my name is Richard Conley with the American Debate League. I think I've come before. Just want to say hello. I'm trying to get my camera. I just want to say hello to the CEC. I had come years before, and I think I came earlier this year. We're excited to announce that we're going to be hosting our tri-state debate tournament, tri-state New York City, mainly New York City, but schools from around New York City, Long Island, Westchester, Rockland, Jersey, and Connecticut. So we'd like to invite, if some of the CC would like to come. I know I've been in talks before with your wonderful superintendent to speak about the concept of having a district league, hopefully next year. We work with districts around the city. The tournament is May 20th. I know everyone has like Saturday, May 20th, everyone has like 100 commitments that day, but we'd love to send the information to the CEC as well as the superintendent. But the second thing, which we've even given you a cup for in years past, is that we're actually doing our summer camp. This year, again, it will be virtual. Next year, we will have virtual and in person. We're going to send that information to the CEC as well as to the superintendent. So we're looking forward to that. We are offering at least 100 scholarships, not just for District 2, but 100 full and partial scholarships to students throughout the city. Every year we work with elementary, middle, high school students. We work with schools mainly in Brooklyn and Queens. We're now reaching out more to Manhattan and the Bronx to host events. We're happy to announce that the event, the Tri-State Championship, is sponsored by Senator John Liu, as well as Speaker Adams, and we have others who help sponsor in other parts of the city as well. So thank you for that. I'll put my information in the chat. I look forward to reaching out to you, CC, as well as reaching back to start the revisit conversation I had with the superintendent, because we think this is wonderful. An opportunity for students. And with your students, we actually go to Harvard University every year. And for high school Princeton, we just went to Harvard this year with about, I think it was 150, 200 students from our member schools that competed at Harvard this year in February. We're looking forward to going back this year. We're looking forward to having your teams debate as well. Should be almost at 2 minutes, right? I'm a debate coach. Did I go over? Like right on time?
I didn't hear the timer go off.
It went off, but it was fine.
Okay.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
sorry.
And we appreciate your good work.
I'm
You
a
can
debate
finish up
coach,
because
that's
we only
right.
have
No problem. Thank you. I'm putting my
Just finish it.
information in the chat. I see you, superintendent. I'll be reaching out to you, sir. All right. and I'll send my information in the chat and I'll reach out to everyone. Thank you and hope to see everyone on May 20th. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Kalani, are you ready?
Yeah, I am. Can I just ask respectfully that since I'm the only speaker left, if I do go a little over 2 minutes, I can just finish what I wrote? Since there's not a huge long line of speakers.
Yeah, that's what just happened. So yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay, I'm Kalani Jenkins. I am the PTA president at PS 51. I'd like to speak about the ELA mandate. It's incredibly concerning to us. The chancellor has repeatedly claimed that he wants to, quote, empower NYC principals. This would be far, far from that. All three of these curriculum will not work for our school. PS 51 used to use expeditionary learning 6 years ago, and after no positive impact on test scores, we worked with the SLT to make the decision as a community to change to our current curriculum, coupled with the phonics and phonemic awareness curriculum. Into Reading was found by the Education, Justice, Research, and Organizing Collaborative with NYU to be culturally insufficient and use language, tone, and syntax that demeaned and dehumanized Black, Indigenous, and characters of color while encouraging empathy and connection with white characters. Similarly, Wit and Wisdom was found to not fully reflect the experience of different racial groups, as seen from Baltimore City's development of a supplementary curriculum to better represent the African-American experience. PS 51 has welcomed a ton of asylum-seeking students who are ESL learners. Content and language-heavy curriculums like these three will be incredibly challenging for them. So basically, this mandate means that PS 51 will undoubtedly get an ELA curriculum that we already know doesn't serve our diverse students or community. PS 51 has been successfully implementing a phonics and phonemic awareness program for many years, in addition to the rigorous literacy curriculum used by all teachers in all grade levels. During second period every day, we push an extra instructor into K through second grade to break our students out into more targeted reading groups. We as a city clearly have to do better, but this is not it. This money can be much better spent on professional development in phonics instruction, more teachers that can push in and allow for smaller groups, smaller class sizes, more ESL teachers, more robust libraries of decodables. The possibilities are endless. Taking away such a fundamental choice from principals, teachers, and parents is a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you, Kalani. I'm gonna circle back to Tamara Reed one more time. All right, is there anyone else who wants to speak?
I don't see her. But that's all that were signed up. So I think we should move along.
Okay.
All right, and the next agenda item is vote on a resolution. So we'll skip that one. And then there's the approval of the minutes. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to share it. So that's my mistake. I apologize to our recording secretary, Robin Kelleher, for not sharing that to the council ahead of time. I could post it right now. We could just review it if the council would like to do that, or we can just vote on it. We can share it. It's in the public documents, but it wasn't shared properly with the council. So we could do it now, or we could just combine it next month. I'm fine with either way. It's up to the council. I don't know what. Maybe we could do by a show of hand vote, or this is a good question for the council parliamentarian.
Can we just roll it into the next one since it wasn't posted?
Yeah, we could do that. Sure.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Recording Secretary Kelleher, for putting a lot of work there. I will share it with the council, and hopefully we can just vote on it, because we'll also have to do the May one as well at the same time. The June one becomes a problem, how we sign off on the June, because we're up to date. So we may need to have a special meeting after our June calendar meeting to just sign off on the June minutes. I imagine That's going to be a struggle to get 6 council members to show up for a 2-minute meeting to just sign off on that. But I would appreciate that if everyone could be so kind to do that, because it is our state requirement that we provide minutes, though we do provide access to all the video of our meetings. So it's there. So we are providing the essential information to the public. Yes, Councilmember Das?
I was going to ask exactly that. Isn't what are our official minutes? Aren't they the video, or are they the notes, or does it require both?
It's the notes. What's required is to have the record of the votes, and
so that has to be written.
Yeah. But I also believe you need to record it too. I don't think it has to be a video. I think audio works as well. But I think if Jennifer Greenblatt is available, she could. I think she knows the rules regarding that.
So you don't need to convene a special meeting to vote on the minutes. The council in July will vote on the minutes from June. I know it won't be the same exact council, but that's what you do. Same thing with the PTA or an SLT. In terms of recording it, I'm not sure about recording it. I do know that you need minutes.
I believe as a council, we do have recordings, audio recordings from the past, but I don't think it's shared anywhere.
So there have been audio recordings. In fact, there have been audio recordings long before there were CECs, when there were community school boards. They've always done audio recordings.
Do you know where they're kept? Because I know we have a secret cabinet at 333 where there's some audio recordings, but I'm not even sure how you play some of them.
They may be there, and then I think at one point somebody sent a lot of things to storage, so I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
Ben, do you remember cassette tapes?
Yeah, I do.
That's how you play them.
Yeah, I know, but where do you get the cassette recorder to play it? Yeah.
I'm sure I have one in my closet. I'll be happy to dig out for you.
eBay or something, yeah. All right. Councilmember Das, did you?
No, Jennifer actually answered the second question. I said I was going to ask if the next council can in fact approve our minutes, and she just answered that.
I wonder why they would want to take that responsibility, though. Because
I do agree it's problematic if they reject it, but
yeah.
Anyway,
yeah,
we'll jump off that bridge when we get to it, I guess.
Yep. Okay. So the next item is new. Let me get this right. New business. Yep. Is there any new business? Any old business? No.
Yeah.
Okay. Vice President Das, yes.
Sorry, I should have mentioned this under committee reports. For what do you call it? For Missions and Diversity Committee. I intended and still intend to have a meeting regarding the admissions process for this year. But we had requested earlier from some data from Department of Enrollment. They originally said they would provide that data in May, after the admissions season was over. They still haven't provided that, and I've heard from a colleague from another council that they are now pushing it back to June because they're not done with 3K and 4K. I intend to ask again, but I still intend to have the meeting, but not 100% sure when that'll be, because I think the data would be helpful for such a meeting. But just want to keep anyone updated on that. That was it.
All right, and thank you for following up on that. That's important information to share. And I should have mentioned today that I've already seen some graduation ceremonies after picking up my daughters from school. So I know there's a lot of planning going on now for our district, elementary and middle schools for graduation ceremonies. It's that season, but I know right now for a lot of high schoolers, they're taking the AP tests. So good luck to families who have high schoolers taking AP tests. And I know we just finished up the math and the reading tests. So I hope the families are getting to, or a lot of students are now getting to enjoy the rest of the year. So with that said, unless there's any other new business, I think I make a motion to adjourn the calendar meeting.
I second.
Okay. All right. Can we just do a raise by hand?
I can do, let me just do a roll call.
Okay, great.
All right. Robin Broshi.
Yep.
Koshik Das.
You're muted.
Koshik, okay. Daniela,
Yes, sorry.
Lupe,
Yes.
Robin Kelleher, yes. Jen Kwok,
Yes.
Ben Morden,
Yes.
Sonal,
Yes.
Len,
Yes.
Lim Fong Sim.
Yes.
Lily is absent. Spencer.
No, Lily's here.
Yes.
She's on.
Oh, Lily, you're on. I'm so glad to see you.
Oh, I
She
I didn't
muted?
make her a co-host. My apologies. All right. So there we go. Yep, she's there. Yeah.
I'm asking her to unmute.
I think she was
Yes,
also
I'm
on during
here.
the tail end. She was on the tail end of the last meeting too. I didn't realize she wasn't co-host.
Okay, so yes to adjourn. Okay.
Not bad.
Spencer,
Yes.
quick question before we wrap this up. Lily, were you on for attendance? Did I miss you? If you weren't co-host?
Yes.
So Len, do I mark her present now? Since we didn't make her co-host?
She was on for a while. It's my apologies that I did not make her a co-host.
Okay. So I should make her.
It
present.
wasn't just for attendance. She was on for a while.
Okay. Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Yes, great. And if we can just move right now to the working business meeting, it should be pretty quick. If we can do a roll call for that.
Okay. Starting over. Robin Broshi. If everyone can unmute now and so you're ready to go, that'd be great. Robin Broshi. All right, I guess she's gone.
She's not here.
Koshik.
Here.
Daniela.
Yeah.
Lupe.
Here.
Robin Kelleher, yes. Chen Kwok.
Here.
And Morden.
Here.
Sonal.
Here.
Len.
Here.
Lim Fong.
Yes, here.
Lily.
Yeah.
Spencer.
Yes.
Here.
We can move forward.
Great. Thank you very much, Robin. All right. Liaison school updates. Are there any liaison school updates? Once, twice, three. Okay, thank you.
We are, really quickly, PS 33 is starting some major construction that we've been trying to get done for the last, I don't know, 5-7 years. I can't even remember at this point, but almost since my first son was there. So that's an update. They're fixing that pretty dangerous corner where the stairs go up and that fell down at one point. It was glass and then it was boarded up. That has started. And I know 234 has a lot of work going on right now. They put up the facade, the scaffolding to work on the facade around the entire building, and they're working in the front.
That's excellent. Great. Great news. Anyone else? No. All right. Item 3, suggestions for future
Oh,
council
wait,
presentations.
I just wanted to say, yeah, we really have to do that bylaws. I apologize. I had a family emergency about that put me out of commission for a couple of weeks. So let's try to notice something.
Very well.
Yeah, let's try to notice something within the next, you guys available in the next 2 weeks. We have to have the next council decide this, but let's at least we already had one meeting. Let's kind of put those, I'll talk to Jennifer because we have notes from the last meeting we had about the proposed changes, which my primary concern is about removal of officers, that the standard did not be that easy. So I think that needs to be addressed. I think that was one of the issues that came up. So I'm going to rely on Jennifer, who kept, I think has the notes from that meeting, and we can kind of address it then. But Kush, you said you wanted to work on this also.
Wanted to, no. Willing to, yes. Yeah, no, so I was trying to help you out, right, because I know you had family issues. But yeah, no, I was certainly at the last meeting, and we had some concerns that we had already done. Do you have your notes from last meeting, out of curiosity?
Jennifer mentioned, didn't you have the notes?
Oh, Lynn, you have the notes.
Oh, great.
If not, then we'll have to just redo it again.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't
there's a
that
video.
complicated.
No, we don't have to
have the
redo
video.
it. Yeah, we don't have to redo it, but then we have to rewatch the video, which is another probably,
2 hours.
Yeah.
Well, we
Right,
can
but
put
we
it
should
on.
have the bylaws ready with the changes in them to review at that meeting.
Jennifer, do you have the document, the Word
Okay, you're
document?
shaking your head at me?
Who? I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Lupe
I'm
shaking
asking
her
Lupe if she's shaking her head at me.
Oh.
For
head.
what?
Can hear you.
Am I recognized?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I raised my hand because I was at that bylaw meeting. There were many things that were brought up, and what was discussed was we need to have the meeting to bring those changes, have time to have the community be able to give feedback. Do we have that time frame? I don't believe 10 months after that bylaws meeting was actually in the last term, last year, June. That does not equate for the first meeting in the bylaws regs in the order that you have to change your bylaws. We can't say
what
a
I'm
meeting
saying-
from 10 months or 12 months ago. It
What I'm
sounded as
saying
if
is for the committee meeting that first of all, committees have no jurisdiction. It's only the CEC that has jurisdiction. They're just putting things together to present at a CEC meeting. So what I'm saying is coming to the calendar, not the calendar meeting, to the committee meeting, that there should be a set of bylaws to look at and then go through that.
So my question is, do we have the time frame to be able to even vote on them within this term, I guess?
That's not
Because
up for me. That's up for you guys.
I don't think we do based on the regs, and that's what I was raising. Like the time frame, and you spoken to that time frame at that bylaw meeting that I was at. And these were not the issues that we even called that meeting to address. The meeting was called so that we could add the hybrid, and we never did, which even if we try to do that now, I'm just saying I don't think that the timeline allows this council to even do that.
I suggest rereading the bylaws, Councilmember Hernandez, and to see what we are and aren't allowed as a council.
And I believe you need 2 meetings, Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, you would need 2 meetings to, you'd want to present them. But again, there could be commentary, but we can make whatever changes to the bylaws we deem fit if we don't necessarily have to have public commentary on bylaws changes. Again, the bylaws are the operating rules that we set for the CEC that we choose to abide by as our operating governing document. So while some people from the public may want to chime in on certain issues, I think we're certainly capable of doing that without public commentary. And we could also take suggestions or comments other ways too, as well. But ultimately, it's our decision in terms of what amendments we choose to adopt or what changes we choose to make.
Correct, but in the time frame that is you still need those 2 meetings. You can't just say we all agree on these amendments and they take place tomorrow.
Correct.
Is my point. So I don't disagree in what we are recommending. My point is regarding the time frame.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Kwok?
Yeah, I just want to put a plug in for PS 111. They're holding their first carnival, 2-day carnival, the first one since the pandemic. It's coming on May 12th after school, and then also on the 13th. So everyone is welcome, children, school children, and the parents and the families. So please come and have fun.
Thank you, Councilmember Kwok, and good luck on the carnival there. Okay. All right. So if there are any suggestions for council presentations, please please email me so we can help facilitate that, because we only have a few weeks. Yes, Councilmember.
I'd love to see, I think we brought it up last time, I'd love to see Coach Russ.
Oh, okay.
I think, our whole district plays chess. I don't know, it could be inspirational.
All right, sure, we can reach out to him. Let's see if we can make it for, what's the date on the council?
I don't know in front of me.
Just gonna check, because we should announce it. It's our last meeting, June 13th. Okay, Tuesday, June 13th. All right.
It also might be interesting to have someone who is going to be teaching the new math curriculum come and speak, since people have so many questions.
Sure.
Or reading, or science, any of the academic categories that are changing.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to do when you're presenting in front of your boss, though, with the superintendent there.
Tell you to log off for a few minutes.
Yeah. All right. Well, if there's anything else, but we can certainly reach out to Coach Russ. Requests for council correspondence and or public notices. Are there any requests? No. Okay. All right. Item 6. Are any council members would like to share resolutions that they're working on, or letters that they're working on? Okay. And calendar updates. I guess I went a little ahead of schedule. Yes, our June 13th is our last calendar meeting, unless we decide to have any special meetings. And new business. Is there any council member new business? If there's no council member new business, I'm going to say one thing.
Just one question.
Yep.
On the terms of special calendar meetings and committee meetings, our term officially ends on the 30th of June. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So we can't hold any committee or special meetings until then.
Yeah, we can hold meetings until then, and in fact, I think we had.
We did. We
the
had a
previous
meeting.
term.
We had a special meeting with the correct.
A special committee meeting with. Oh, I think I skipped one thing, or it wasn't an item. Yes, I did skip item 4, and this is important. I'd like to make a motion to vote on having 333 7th Avenue as our in-person meeting location if executive emergency powers are not extended by the mayor. And we won't know that till on the 20th or so.
I second.
Thank you. You're muted. Robin.
Okay, we're gonna vote. Robin Broshi is absent, I think, unless she came back.
I don't see her.
Koshik,
Yes.
Daniela,
Yes.
Lupe,
Yes.
Robin, yes. Chen,
Yes.
Ben Morden,
Yes.
Sonal,
Yes.
Len,
Yes.
Lim Fong,
Yes.
Liwa? Lily?
Yes.
Spencer?
Yes.
Okay, so 10 yeses, and Spencer, it's 11.
All right, unanimous, that's adopted. Okay. Passed. All right, we have exactly 3 hours to vote for in the CEC elections. Please go vote, parents. And with that, I make a motion to adjourn our
No, put the link
working
in.
business meeting.
Put the link in to vote.
I'll put the link
Someone-
into vote.
Someone
Does
have it?
anyone have that handy?
I do, if you give me a moment.
Isn't it just my students?
Yeah, but parent, just give parents the exact.
So exciting.
The parents or students? It's students, right?
Student.
Let's see, this is why. I'm not gonna be able to find it fast enough. No. All right, go ahead.
Is it mystudents.nyc or mystudent.nyc?
Yes.
That's why I wanted to put it, because
Mystudent.nyc.
hold on. We have nothing else to talk about. We're just literally waiting for me.
Yeah, you're. Yeah, it's
I
my.
just wanna
Okay,
verify
our
before-
school's account.nyc as well. I have it here. I'll put it in the chat.
That didn't work.
I'm glad to hear that the schools are all having their galas.
Yeah.
PS33 had a very productive gala.
Oh, yes, I have a new.
Well attended, and we made a lot of money for next year's arts and enrichment courses.
I did have two correspondents. Yes, I wanted to. I attended the PS33 gala as well as the lower lab gala, which were both fantastic, and wanted to thank both PTAs for having us. Ben, I can't find it. I'm sorry.
I posted it already. All right. Well, with that said, I make a motion to adjourn the working business meeting.
Second.
Do you want to do a roll call vote or?
Sure. Robin Broshi, absent. Koshik.
Yes.
Daniela. Is she absent?
You may have left. I think she might have left.
All right. Lupe.
Yes.
Robin, yes. Chin Kwok.
Yes.
And Morden.
Yes.
Sono.
Yes.
Len. Len. Can you give us a thumbs up or down? I can't hear you. Can you just use your thumb?
Yeah.
Okay, great, Len, thank you. Lim Fong,
Yes.
Liwa, Lily,
Yes.
Spencer.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, unanimous again.
We can adjourn.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening, and I look forward to seeing you all next month. Good night.
Thank you.
Ben,
Good
what
night.
happens if there's no unanimous for adjourning?